parents and significant others for all you've done for them during the year. My name is John Saito. I'm the Paramedic Program Director here at Oregon Health Sciences University. As sort of a commercial, but I think it's important to recognize that we are part of the Department of Emergency Medicine within the School of Medicine, and it's largely due to the support that we get from the institution at large in terms of Oregon Health Sciences University, as well as the Department of Emergency Medicine, that this program continues. And I'd just like to express my thanks to all the administrators and some of the support people who have made it possible for us to continue to offer this program at hopefully the quality that is expected by our customers, i.e. the students. Without further ado, what we normally do is we try to keep this short and sweet. We always have an individual who is sort of representative of the greater EMS or Emergency Medical Services, EMS community at large, say a final word to the students. This year we opted to bring somebody in from American Medical Response in Las Vegas, who is one of our internship sites. And we asked Mark Piscalis, who's the education director there, to address the students. One last sort of what we call effective domain push, recognizing that one of the things we really try to do in this program is to emphasize not only the technical aspects and competencies required of being a paramedic, but also to talk a little bit about some of the professional and personal and compassion sort of aspects that are becoming important in providing health care to the general public. And so we've asked Mark Piscalis to be here today, to be with us, to make that presentation to the class. Mark?
Spot to talk here. I'm normally an impromptu speaker, so there it is. I also have fight or flight right before I speak, so thank God the room is paramedics and we'll probably be safe. So if I do pass out, just come on up here, assist me. The other thing is, John, I think I'm a little horizontally challenged here because I always do that horizontal and vertical thing backwards. Well, let me tell you how pleased I am to be here. I've interned Oregon Health Sciences students for about 11 years now. And I have to tell you that it's an extreme distinct pleasure for me to intern this school. American Medical Response, MedTrans as we used to be known, is very proud of the internship sites that we have. And we're very proud of the ones that we get to keep, and some unfortunately we discard. This will be a program that, as long as I live and breathe, we will continue to accept. And that's kind of what I start my note on today, and that is, what is an education? There's a physician in Fort Worth, Texas. I know some of you unfortunately went there. But, there's a physician there who said to the paramedics one night when they were unable to get orders, they came in and they said, "Doctor, you know, we're really frustrated. What is the story here? Why were we unable to get an order for this medication?" And he said, "Son, I don't let vocational technical institute students take care of patients. I expect for community college trained paramedics to not make decisions. I make those. I'm the doctor." Well, I have to tell you, as a clinical manager, that's a very interesting affront to fall up against, especially since I went to a vocational technical institute to become a paramedic. That was shortly after I graduated from college at the University of Minnesota, and shortly after my mother had a fit because I was going to be a paramedic. She was a little disappointed that the best I was going to achieve in life was to be an ambulance driver. And so, trying to get through that, I also have a twin brother, and so it was kind of a competitive little spirit. But I think what's important here is looking at the environment that we're in to learn. Oregon Health Sciences University has probably the finest program in the United States, bar none. And we intern students from all over the country. Some are very successful, some are not. Some are able to actually take care of the patients, and unfortunately some are not. And so we have to choose carefully how and when we intern students. And when you look at this program, it stands above all else. And why? What sets this program apart from all the others? The first is it's a full-time commitment. The other thing is of course, it's tied to the medical school, as John just said a moment ago. And I think that that's kind of the important issue here. Paramedics have had a hard time gaining credibility in the community because we weren't tied to medical schools. When we look at nursing and nurse practitioners, when we look at physician assistants, they were successful because they were tied to institutions of higher learning, and traditionally paramedic education is not. And so I put forward to you that if we're going to actually further paramedic education, this is the model in which we do it. And that means we tie it to a medical school, and then we have a firm foundation of how to absolutely make paramedic education work, because paramedics for the future are going to be far different than what they are today. I think that medicine's an interesting evolution in that for a long time we used to make house calls. We still do that, except we do these in these little 6-ton little units we've got running around the street. But we still make house calls. And as we get closer to reality, we start to actually deliver primary care in the field. And I think that that's actually where paramedicine is going. So a firm foundation education is probably the place to be. Now I know for some of you it may be difficult to think of an education for paramedics being different than OHSU, but let me tell you a story about a young man that I have right now in Las Vegas, Nevada, who is interning to become a paramedic at our company. He was having a lot of trouble and he's struggling, and we were really trying to decide whether or not we could continue to move him forward to be a paramedic. And so I brought him in and I said to him, you know, young man, tell me, where did you go to school? So he says, well, I went to this program in Arizona. So I said, well, tell me something about your program, because I'm kind of confused, and you seem to be having some trouble putting things together here. He said, well, the program was 8 months in length. So I thought, wow, that's not bad. Mine was a year, but 8 months, I mean, as programs go, 6 to 8 months, part-time is a pretty interesting little do. Here, of course, you're here for a year or more in a full-time status. So he says, yeah, I went to school for 8 months. I said, really? He says, yeah. And I said, well, tell me about your program. He goes, well, we went every Friday for 8 hours. So after I fell out of my chair laughing and getting back up on my chair, I said to him, excuse me? He says, yeah, I went to class for 8 hours a day for 8 months. Well, that equals out to about 300 classroom hours to become a paramedic. And you know, folks, I don't think that's a standard that all of us would like to think when we're picking up the phone and dialing 911, that the best we could do is 300 hours worth of education, because we really failed in our quest. And so I think that that's an important point to think of. Well, so what makes for a great paramedic? Well, the first thing, of course, is the education that we've talked about this morning. Without a good foundation, we can't be good paramedics. Without being a good EMT, however, we can't be good paramedics either, and I think that that's an important point to remember, that being a basic technician or a basic skill giver is almost as important as the education we're going to receive as paramedics, because it's a very important aspect of our lives, and without it, we can't be very good at advanced skill caregiving. But then the other thing is not losing sight of your assessment. As one of my predecessors, Doug Hughes, used to always tell students, you know, we're out of this hands-on assessment stuff, that we don't touch people anymore, and that we do more of this kind of hand CAT scan thing. We wave our hands above the body, we go, boy, I think I have something here, and this I think is what's wrong. And that was always the biggest problem, was that we lost sight of our assessment, that we were afraid to touch people. And so I think that when you look at this program specifically, you see that we've introduced that back into the education that we provide the student. And that is that we provide hands-on care, and that we're not afraid to deal appropriately with our patients. The other thing is to be a leader, not a follower. When I went to Minneapolis, Minnesota to become a paramedic, I graduated from school there. I went to Kansas City, Missouri, spent a few years there until they were tired of me, and then I moved on to Minneapolis. And when I got there, I got to a 2-paramedic system, and I have to be frank with you that if I had come and started in that system first, I would be a weaker paramedic today than I thought was possible. And let me tell you why. Because you see, I would have become as good or as weak as my partner was, because I would have never chosen to excel. I would have not had to try, because I always had somebody there to catch me. In Kansas City, Missouri, I had a basic partner. I always knew when things were in trouble in the first year, because we'd be running lights and sirens to the hospital, and I'd be thinking, I didn't think there's anything wrong with this patient. But you see, he had 12 or 13 years of experience on me. And he was able to introduce to me the difference of, you know, I know when a person's sick and when somebody's not. And so the important thing is that we be leaders, and that we lead by example, we stand up, and that we don't lose our opportunity to move forward. That we don't think that this is our last opportunity to education, that we continue to move forward, and that we continue to gain more education and more time as we go on. But the next thing is, of course, remembering who the customer is.
There's probably people out in the audience who are relating to some of the words of wisdom that Mark has imparted to us today. So thank you, Mark, for that. In concert with the environment that we try to create in the classroom, we always try to, as much as we can, within limits, of course, within limits of civility, try to allow for the student perspective. And the class has nominated Bill Wildman to be their class spokesman and provide to those of you who are out there the student perspective on how the year has gone for the class. Bill?
Thank you for coming today. First of all, I have to say, Mark, thank you so much for flying up to be with us today. I know it's difficult coming from Las Vegas. I was down there for 2.5 months with Mark and his cruise, and I can assure you that he has at least 3 pairs of long underwear on right now, and it's very cold despite that. It's quite an experience working and living in 114-degree heat day after day and providing patient care. So those folks are to be commended. I think they replace their body water about every 6 hours. This time last year, several of us from this graduating class were sitting out there right where you are today. We were listening to the graduation and watching a slideshow, and we got together afterwards. And the general consensus with these students that would be coming into this year's class, class number 23, was, what have we gotten ourselves into here? It's been an amazing year, but this graduation does not represent the end of 1 year of extremely difficult effort. For a lot of us, most of us actually, this is the culmination of many years of struggle, taking college courses, anatomy, working in the field, both as medics, mountain rescue personnel, ski patrol, avalanche control, all these different facets of emergency medicine and emergency care, plus the college work. So this is not strictly a 1-year program. A lot of years of effort are coming to a close this afternoon. We've had a lot of highs and lows, some really good times. This is an amazing group of people that we've gone through this experience with, and some low times as well. But the really special part of that is all those low times, every one of us took their turn stepping up to the plate and helping others through that. I think that really makes this program. I can't imagine getting through this experience by myself. I don't think it's possible without the help of classmates being there, experiencing the same thing. The people in this class all have a story that can be told, and we're going to have a presentation a little bit later to get a feel for some of those personalities. But just a few I'd like to share with you really quickly here. I don't think any of us will ever forget Roger, who was apparently born without the genes for political correctness or kindness. Although she's not here with us today, she's completing her internship. Who's ever going to forget Mary Kay's laughter? Every time she laughed, the whole class ended up breaking up, and she frightened the life out of several lecturers on occasion. And then there was Jason Rogers. Has anyone figured out why Jason was kneeling on a table meowing like a cat that day? Of course, Nathan was the envy of all who saw his huge, over-exercised neck. And none of us will ever forget those few occasions when lecturers stumped the entire class with a question. And slowly, all 20 of us turned and looked at Nick Rayner. The scary thing was the guy usually had the right answer. There are 15 other people that went through this experience with us that all have stories, some more colorful, some not quite so colorful as the ones I've listed here today. We've had a lot of fun together also. Lots of long nights spent at Paula Wilson's house, studying, talking about just about everything, and being provided dinner, of course. We had a barbecue after our clinicals ended before we all scattered to the 7 winds on our internships. And that was very memorable. We've got some pictures of that for you this afternoon. Some of the pictures we don't have for you this afternoon. We provided gifts for a family at Christmas. We donated their whole Christmas experience for them when they were not able to provide that for themselves. And an interesting footnote to that, during our clinicals several months later, the mother and the child from that family came in to receive care in the emergency department here at the university. And one of our students that's graduating today provided care for them. And this mother could not say enough months later about how much that meant to her and her family to receive that and to have a Christmas with gifts for their child. That was very special to do. We took a ski trip in December, and several things came out of that. The first of which, Gary Reed is a ski patroller up on Mount Hood, and we spent the day looking for him. We devised the most efficient, in our minds, method of tracking Gary down as we were riding up the chairlifts looking for him. Yay! So any of you on the mountain that day, that was us. We found him. And of course, Troy and Brandon learned to ski that day. They spent the morning on the bunny slope, and then after lunch we decided they were doing well enough to go to the upper mountain. And ski they did. Troy has a very unique style, and if you want to learn to ski, I suggest you see him about speed racing and turning. And on and on and on. There are hundreds of stories that came out of this year. Too many to list. That's why we put together a presentation we'll have for you in a few minutes here, give you a feel of the personality of this group of people. At this point, why don't I have Paula Wilson?
Lauren's very emotional. She's been through a lot this year, but I can guarantee you she's cool as ice when things are really falling down around her ears. Troy D. Gilliam. Don M.B. Haggerty. Cum laude. Michael D. Hefner. Roger H. Houston. You ain't getting my beer. Steve R. Little, summa cum laude. Patrick J. Myers. Trudy A. Nakashima, cum laude with honors. Every once in a while, during your career as an educator, you get a big surprise. The next graduate is graduated from my high school in Hawaii 20 years after I did, and I took a neurobiology and neurophysiology course from his father, Nicholas B. Rayner. Nicholas is a cum laude with honors graduate as well. Gary S. Reed, cum laude with honors. Jason L. Rogers.
Made in part upon grades, but also incorporates many other considerations. This year, we're awarding that to, of course, Steve Little as announced. And I'd like to bring Steve up front here so we can say a few words about him as we make this tribute. Come on up, Steve. You can bring your son, too. That's fine. Bring him up. Here for a moment. Started out for one of us getting lost behind the podium with two of us. It's bad. Some of you may not have known that before entering this program, Steve graduated from Washington State University with a sociology degree. He served 4 years in a fire department and subsequently 2 years as a BLS EMT before joining our paramedic education program. He has distinguished himself in a number of ways within this last year, and some special areas that I was asked to make note of by his instructors, that he has demonstrated maturity and ability to overcome significant obstacles during training. He's had a positive outlook despite the demands of the program. He has demonstrated strong clinical acumen. He has demonstrated patient empathy in a very professional and advanced manner. He received A's on both of his toxicology and clinical research papers. And he's also demonstrated a high degree of professionalism and served as a role model for his classmates. But for those of you who are interested in numerology, you probably would have said this was destined to happen. Steve was born on the 8th month. He graduated from high school in 1988. He received his college degree on the 8th month, began his EMT training on the 8th month, and he's completing paramedic training on 8/28/98. In 2 days, he'll be 28 years old. Well, enough crazy eights. As the summa cum laude graduate of 98, Steve will receive, and I apologize, because normally we have the award here, but it'll come later, about 8 days hence. He'll receive probably the best medical textbook ever written, and of course I always say that about my textbook, Clinical Procedures in Emergency Medicine, but I give you our summa cum laude graduate, Steve Liu.
You know, it's really heartening to see a child here because it sort of reminds me of that thing that Mark said about, you know, don't ever forget your family.
So I looked at everything before I took it. Tell us about you meowing on top of your desk. Tell us here about that.
I don't even remember that happening. I think they made that up.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. Honestly, a long time ago.
Evidently, people get you at very inopportune time, and that's all they see of what you're doing. So they wonder, what?
That usually takes
That's what Grandma was saying. Well, when Aaron we ended up with a grandson too on July 3rd, our birth. Yeah, so it's been quite a story. So you can see where it is. Oh yeah.
And who? Sorry.
Other guys can't. We made it safe with the most advanced technology in the business, and we made it Schwab with help if you need it. We didn't take any chances. Should you?
Call now to open your eSchwab account with complimentary software and get electronic brokerage the way it should be.
Monsoon. Now there's premium sound in the unique interior of the Hummer. Monsoon. Power, attitude, audio for the road.
It was the first night of our vacation. Between my aching back and all the excitement